Are you like most busy people, stressed and inundated with health advice? This overwhelm is not helping your health. You see, one day I woke up in severe pain and I could not walk. I was dragging myself around the house in my office chair with wheels. I tried Tylenol, the pain didn't go away. I tried Motrin, the pain didn't go away either. I then remembered that an 80-year-old cardiologist had told me about turmeric. I rushed to the store and bought a turmeric supplement. After taking only one capsule, about 1 hour later, I was able to walk again, pain-free. This miraculous experience made me a firm believer in quality, holistic remedies. I am Dr. Adiola Oke, the Body Activator. That was me, a nurse, a pharmacist, and a public health professional. I didn't know that I was suffering from inflammation despite all my years of education. Now, I have been able to get to the root cause of my health challenges, and I feel great and full of energy. I don't want you to learn the hard way like I did. So, I created the Wellness Search podcast to share simple, actionable changes that you can make to activate your body to heal naturally today. Here, we will have conversations about food, fitness, mental health, and all that is in between. Now, let's get started. Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Wellness Search podcast. Today, I'm interviewing Dr. Marina Buksov. She is a functional medicine pharmacist, a health coach, a herbal educator, and a lifelong learner of the healing arts. How amazing is that? She is the creator of Build Your Holistic Herbal Practice course, which mentors other healthcare professionals in clinical herbal as well as business skills. She is also a functional medicine pharmacist as part of the PharmToTable telehealth platform. Marina guides practitioners to rediscover their passion for medicine by expanding their mind and clinical skills to include natural, holistic, alternative, and herbal medicine from which conventional pharmacy practice originated. She believes in honoring plants as food and medicine for sustainable and sovereign health. Whoa. When she's not working or studying, Marina likes to dance, paint, and tinker with various concoctions, tea blends, meals, DIY projects. She lives with her husband and two adorable kiddos and two mischievous kitties in New York City. So welcome, Dr. Marina. Lovely to have you on here today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about the big A. What is that? Alzheimer's disease. I just came up with that. Okay. So yeah, it's like the elephant in the room that nobody really wants to talk about, but we need to think about it to possibly prevent it. And since Dr. Marina is like, she's everything, right? She's your ideal healthcare professional. She's got the pharmacy knowledge. She has the herbal behind her name, the functional medicine. Who better than to talk to her about? Who is the best person to talk to this about? How am I going to say? She's the best person to talk to this about. So let me just get into all that though, so they understand where you came from. Can you briefly tell us your story and how you chose to be a herbal educator?
Yeah, absolutely. So I became a pharmacist about 10 years ago now, and I slowly started going on my personal and professional journey towards healing and alignment at that point. I found myself really enjoying pharmacy school and wanting to go into the field to help people, right? The banal things you hear from all healthcare professionals, no doubt. And, to also help myself and my family, kind of knowing what to do, how to care for myself, and knowing that I want to have a family in the future. I wanted to be that go-to person. And again, the learning process was amazing. I was fascinated by everything. I liked all my rotations. But then when it came time to actually choose what I'm going to do after school, the road became less clear. There wasn't like this curriculum and this guidepost for me. So I became really lost and confused as far as what would actually bring me the most fulfillment and joy, and where I would feel like I'm making a difference, which is why I went into this. And I realized that, I'm probably just going to take a local retail job since I'm not too sure. And I'm getting really stressed out thinking about residency and fellowships. And also kind of knowing deep in my heart that I'm probably not going to be, it's not going to be the best fit for me, just based on my experiences thus far, even though it was definitely lucrative and exciting and rewarding. I just kind of realized then that I'm getting so stressed out and anxious that it's probably not the best way. And I kind of gave myself permission with talking to a mentor to not go that route if it doesn't, feel 100% aligned. So I just took kind of a safe job opportunity. It ended up falling through, but I found another even better one. And it actually had some herbal medicine experts there. And we used to carry herbal medicine and other, ways of practicing healthcare and pharmacy there. So I was exposed to this culture where people would come to the pharmacy to get healthy and not only to get drugs. However, I was dispensing the drugs and not really counseling them on the how to get healthy part. So that didn't sit well with me. And I felt and believed that really, if we focus more on the food and the prevention aspect of healthcare, we wouldn't need as many drugs to be dispensed, because we know as pharmacists that they have toxic effects, they have adverse effects, they have a burden on our organs of elimination, they have drug interactions. And here I am dispensing like 30 to 40 meds per patient. And I was like feeling so guilty that here I am dispensing all of this, and I'm not doing much on the side of education, prevention, lifestyle changes. So I knew from pharmacy school that these non-pharmacological measures were so important, but I just wasn't that expert to talk to people about it. So I decided to educate myself and, became all those things you mentioned: health coach, functional nutritionist. And then I eventually found herbalism and loved how it interacted and integrated and shared the same roots with pharmacy, but just, through political reasons, it was just denounced, and now we practice evidence-based medicine, which I'm all for science, but science is this skeptical mindset, right? Where we just hypothesize, then we prove, disprove, and we have to keep an open beginner mind through all of these trials and processes. So we believing, quote unquote, in science and trusting it is the same thing as trusting in non-evidence-based evidence. You have to do your due diligence and research and study before you can come to any conclusion, and you must do the experiments. And as of course we know, randomized controlled studies are the highest gold standard for that. And there's not as much, of course, I'll agree with that, in herbal or other modalities, but there are definitely epidemiologic and other types of observational studies that are out there. There's also the history, which is, we've been using plants for millennia. So I do believe that there's a role for this. Other countries have relied on this until this long, and we spend the highest dollar amount per capita on our healthcare, and we're not having the same great results as other countries. So it's kind of ridiculous to me. And I think that's where we really need to focus: the education, the prevention, self-care, so that everybody just knows what is best for them and doesn't rely on a, let's face it, broken system where our food is no longer food, but food-like, substances.
So true.
And, personally, I also had my health journey, which is why I'm so passionate about this, because I didn't find the answers in allopathic modalities. Conventional therapy put me on drugs, got me under the knife, gave me invasive procedures and diagnoses, and ultimately didn't even help me. And my symptoms were still there. And then the more aggressive the treatments got, the worse my symptoms became. So I almost had to look for other things. And I did find a lot of comfort and solace, and in some cases, complete resolution of my symptoms by turning to the more gentle modalities looking outside the box. And I use herbs on the daily. You know, I spice up my food and my drinks with herbs and spices. And, you know, I really do believe that everybody can do this.
Yes, yes, yeah. And thank you so much for that. But I think a lot of people, a lot of healthcare professionals, that if you they really think deep, they are starting to go more towards the prevention rather than treatment. And I definitely know that about myself. Like, I know how many preventative things I give my kids, so we just don't have to deal with not going to school or being sick, because I really hate when a kid is sick. They can't breathe, they can't do that. And so yes, people think, alternative medicine. Yeah, if you've tried the pharmaceutical medications and you've had the side effects, you really think deep, like, yes, all those things our grandmas and grandpas used to use, let's bring them on. Please bring them on. So yeah, so thank you so much for that. So let's get to the big topic, all right? So can you explain in the simplest of terms, what is Alzheimer's disease?
Yes. So initially, when I was asked to do this topic, I have to admit I had to do a little bit of refreshment research because I don't really work with this population on the daily. But by doing the research, I really confirmed my initial feeling about what this disease really represents and what are the big root causes that we need to focus on in terms of prevention and, you know, if not reversal, then at least stopping the progression of this disease. And mainly, this is the leading cause of dementia, which really means that it's a progressive neurocognitive disorder, and it presents in loss of function of your brain, essentially. So you're impaired in at least one domain of your cognition, meaning your ability to speak a language, to perceive things, learn new things, memorize, right? Your memory is one of the first things to go in Alzheimer's in particular, but also it turn into changes with your attention, your personality even, social function, executive function, so the ability to make decisions, and can even lead to, mood changes, including aggression and confusion.
Yeah. It's a huge deal. And it's kind of really near and dear to my heart right now, because yes, I have an aging mom, right? She's really helpful, but I have a friend that she's dealing with the same thing. And you're like, what can I do to help? How can we prevent this, And so it's something I'm always looking for an answer towards, like, what can we do about Alzheimer's? And so as a herbal educator and a functional medicine pharmacist, what actionable tips do you recommend to possibly prevent and manage Alzheimer's holistically?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think there's a lot of nuances within how to differentiate this specific diagnosis from other dementia. And really, they're all kind of similar and overlapping, and sometimes even the causes for them are similar. But there's a couple of things that distinguish Alzheimer's, and that's why the first thing to go is usually the memory, which is how you can kind of spot it early on. And the other thing I want to mention is it really presents as a disease of the aging, of the elderly, right? Mm-hmm. So what we know is that a lot of things go wrong as we age. Mm-hmm. So there's this theory that I subscribe to and that I've seen in the research that really aging is just a loss of our self-defense mechanisms to keep ourselves healthy. And one of the main things in Alzheimer's that goes wrong is there's inflammation that's uncontrolled, mm-hmm. right? So we stop having proper communication within our pro and anti-inflammatory systems. And that's across the board for all aging populations. And
Can you break that down? Pro and anti. Break that down for the layman.
Yes, I'll break that down. So essentially, one of the big things that you're always doing as you live your life is your body. I want to tell you this. Your body is on your side, right? Your body has all of these internal mechanisms to heal you, and to, whenever things go wrong, it tries to get you back on track. It tries to keep you healthy at all costs. And it prioritizes the main, most life-threatening things to respond to first, and then everything else kind of follows. So it really goes in order of importance. What will keep you alive first and foremost is what it takes care of. So your body is super wise. And, as much as we can help it with pharmaceuticals and other modalities, our body knows what to do best. So it's the best case scenario, in my opinion, to arm it with what it needs, all the supplies and nutrients and good habits that it needs to keep itself clean and nice and functional. And our lifestyle habits are usually the culprit behind why our body starts stagnating and it stops functioning as well. And as we age, there's all these processes that have more of a chance and a likelihood of going wrong. And if you break it down into a cellular level, the big things that are going on are inflammation, which is, I'll explain this, it's a function of your immune system, right? So one of the big threats that we're always facing as we're walking around, look at our pandemic, right? It's really these pathogens that our immune system is trying to, isolate and get antibodies to at the end of the day. And so that if we face it again, it's going to have the proper defense in place. So that's called your acquired immune system. But what you're born with, without even facing any pathogens and not coming to contact with any pathogens yet, you have your built-in innate immune system that you're born with. So throughout the course of your life, these two are keeping each other in balance. And we're seeing that there's this relationship that your innate, which you're born with, starts going into overdrive as you age, and your acquired stops functioning as well. And so this causes a sort of disbalance and dysregulation. So what happens is, you're spending your time and energy, and your cells are fueled by oxygen. That's how you actually get energy. And over time, your cells, part of your cell is called the mitochondria, which is what is processing the oxygen that you're breathing in and changes it to a fuel source for you. This is how we stay alive. And this fuel source then fuels all your other cells in what they need to do. So one side of the equation is your immune system starts acting up because, you're relying on it a lot. And then for some reason, it starts again, sort of as you age, going into more of an inflammatory state, again, to help you, because the goal of inflammation is actually to heal whatever is going on in the acute phase. So if you have corona or some other some other virus or, bacteria or anything else, your immune system wants to step in, get it out, and it needs to target it by inflammation, by telling your cells, something's wrong, let's mark this and get it out, get it out of the body, right? And what we're seeing with corona, for example, is there's too much inflammation, and then that becomes a problem. So our own body has good intentions, but then it can't clean up this inflammation fast enough. And when it becomes chronic, meaning it's just low-grade inflammation day in and day out, it sees that there's something wrong, but it can't clear itself out. This is the problem. And then there's all sorts of miscommunication that happens to this. And one of the leading theories for why this even happens goes back to our cellular respiration, which is how we get energy, as I just mentioned. So when you are breathing in your oxygen, it goes to your cells, it starts to produce a very low-grade, small amount, free radicals. What this means is this is something usually with a slightly negative charge and an unpaired electron. So this is a molecule that is so reactive, it's hyperreactive, it wants to bond to some other molecule to give it the full negative charge to steal another electron. So this goes back to chemistry, right? But just think about this as like an incomplete molecule, right? And it needs to bond with something else in order to be happy and complete and have either a negative charge or a neutral charge. So our body is producing proteins, DNA, and other things all the time. This is how it communicates and builds our processes. And these reactive oxygen, usually they have a molecule of oxygen in there too. And they are starting to bond and attack to other things because it wants to attach and be happy. But then it knocks off the electrons of other atoms and other molecules. And then it's a whole cyclical chain that doesn't stop. And this is how it can damage all of these proteins and RNA codes and DNA codes that we have. And now our body stops balancing itself out and doesn't know what to do. And it can't clean up all of these things that are going wrong, because this is not how the structure is supposed to look. Now we have reactive oxygen species and free radical attacking things that it shouldn't be. So over time, this becomes a problem, even though this is a natural way of living. And as this accumulates, we really need to be mindful of getting enough of our own internal systems on board to fix this issue. And our number one way to fix it is antioxidants. So we have our own antioxidants that we produce endogenously, but usually at least part of them need to come from the diet, at least for the starting material. Then we can build them on our own. So things like we're always talking about, right? Vitamin C, vitamin E. Our biggest endogenous one, meaning we build it ourselves, is glutathione, and it's composed of 3 amino acids, right? So yes, you can supplement with glutathione as well, and you can supplement with the ones I mentioned, but really you want to get them from food, and why not get as much as you can from food? Our body actually recognizes it when it's in a food or when it's in an herb, which is why I really practice herbalism, because the bioavailability is much greater when our body actually knows, okay, this is, the structure that we understand versus this is a synthetic structure in a supplement that sometimes the body doesn't absorb all that well. And so with glutathione is one of the ways that we can really arm our body with antioxidants. It's one of our fail-safe systems. And so the way to get this from food is pretty difficult as a whole molecule, but again, we can build it. Either we can supplement it, but the absorption and half-life is also a problem, or we can eat foods that have one of the main amino acids in glutathione is cysteine. So we can supplement directly with cysteine as N-acetylcysteine, or we can eat sulfur-rich foods. And our biggest food groups for that is allium, which is your onion and garlic family, and brassica, which is your, kale, broccoli, the cruciferous veggies. So this is why no matter where you go, this is like the foundation, good food. And we also say eat the rainbow. So all of these plant particles that can be good donators and stabilizers of all these rampant rogue electrons, right? They have these structures, they have the benzene rings usually, and the more they have, the better they stabilize our system. So there's this whole category of flavonoids and polyphenols that we get from rich pigmented plants, which is why eating the rainbow, but not Skittles, actual food that has different colors is our go-to. So
Okay.
plants that have diverse, rich, the whole gamut, yellow, red, purple, green, blue, they have all different kinds of particles that we need that act as antioxidants within our body.
Okay.
So that is the number one thing I would say, as far as our approach is just understanding that this is all due to inflammation and oxidation. And as we age, we're seeing an increase in these diseases because we're increasingly aging a population, which is good, right? So we've never had in our history a population that has achieved these ages, and these diseases start to show up, above age 65 or so, sometimes above 40, but usually it starts showing up 65 and over and then progressively increases. And that's because we're just aging. So it's a good job that we're keeping ourselves, healthy enough to be alive at that age. But now we got to really watch out for those chronic issues of constant oxidation due to our normal, biology, and then inflammation. Also, stress is a huge driver, right? Because when your body thinks you're in stress, it goes into fight or flight, dominant sympathetic mode. It wants to protect you, it wants to get you ready to do something drastic. So it starts oxidizing even more, and then you have even more reactive oxygen species, and you have more inflammation. You're also more prone to coagulating. So with your system that coagulates blood, you also
coagulating, clotting, right?
Clotting, exactly. Yes. Also, your system that's, again, trying to keep you safe. You don't digest food as well. So there's a lot of things that start going wrong when you feel like you're in hyperdrive and you're just stressed out. And then the other things that we typically see, right, is your cardiovascular, systems, your cholesterol, your people that have cardiometabolic things, people that have diabetes, all of these have the same underlying mechanisms of the inflammation and the oxidation. And why they're expressing in the heart and in the brain is because we have the highest level of oxidation there, because we need the most energy, we need the most fuel. These are vital organs to our survival. So this is where you're going to have the most levels that can go wrong, unfortunately. And so Alzheimer's is a disease of the brain. But then if you think about it, many people that have something going on neurologically, they also physiologically have something vascular, meaning something in your blood vessels, or
high blood pressure.
Right. Yes. High blood pressure, heart disease, all of this. So these are like the same root causes, but they're just manifesting differently. And look at the prevalence. How many people have the cardio side, the vascular side, so the hyperlipidemia, a lot of cholesterol. And then another hidden factor, I think, that drives oxidation and inflammation is heavy metals. So we don't realize, that we should be filtering our water, that unfortunately the tap water is different state to state, and some of it is better than others. And there's still some lead and other heavy metals like cadmium, manganese, not to mention fluoride and chloride, which are not the same, and other toxicants, basically, that our body responds to negatively. So when our body senses this is a harmful chemical or metal or whatever it is, it starts right away, the inflammation to get it out. So this is kind of like the catch-22. You got to clean up your environment. So try to eat as clean as possible, meaning mostly plants. And that's a little difficult nowadays because our plants don't have good soil quality and are treated with fertilizers and all this stuff. But still, it's better to eat that and, advocate for good farming practices versus eating just packaged goods with lots of heavily rancid, by the way, fats in those packaged goods and sugars, which sugar is inflammatory too. So we're eating the wrong stuff, which sets off this cascade, and then we're not eating enough of the good stuff. So the antioxidant rich rainbow foods. So that's number one. Number two is really activating our body and our mind together, because it's one body, right? So we got to move things from one system to the other and communicate to both systems. So we stimulate the mind by learning new skills, having new experiences, doing crossword puzzles, right? And
Sudoku.
Yeah.
Sudoku,
yeah, exactly. So keep our mind engaged, right? Reading books even, and our body also, we need to keep it moving. So the circulation is also very important. So nothing is stagnant. That's one of the traditional views of disease, is like things just stagnate. So you got to move. So you can do mindful and intentional exercise like Tai Chi or yoga to work on your balance. and your gait. And then I also read about walking backwards is really, it motivates both, right? The mind and the body.
Very
And
interesting.
it stimulates more neurons because it's something different. You're not used to walking in that way. So it's like,
Be careful
instead of
though.
it's making it conscious. Yeah, it's making a subconscious behavior conscious. But yes, definitely be careful. You got to be a pro to start something like that, or have a guide with you.
Yes, 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 yes. Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. So what I'm hearing is this. I like to summarize, right? Because so basically it's all about inflammation, right? That's a huge word. And she did a fantastic job breaking that down. And she talked about oxidation, like free radicals. And then she talked about there's inflammation causing oxidation. And then she talked about how you can balance that out, the antioxidants in your body, right? That you naturally have. And you can, before you want to start that process, you can take in some antioxidants. She talked about vitamin C, vitamin E. The wonderful ways to get these things in the body will also be through eating, your vegetables. So a lot of people are saying they're going vegan these days, but if you see what they're eating, it's not close to food. So please, you can hop on that trend, but be sure to eat the real stuff, right? The real vegetables, right? The real greens. So fruits, vegetables, all that. And so she talked about stress, right? Stress is a huge deal in our population today. So different ways to manage stress. Movement. I've actually heard that movement exercise is one of the best ways you can actually possibly prevent Alzheimer's disease. So it's one that I'm really, really a big proponent for. And it's so, I wouldn't want to say it's easy, but you actually have, the easiest way is to just get started. You don't need any equipment for it. Just get moving and be intentional about it. So oh yes, she talked about your memory, right? Doing activities that stimulate your brain, crossword puzzles, walking backwards. That one I would love to do because it really does take brain coordination, but please be careful. Okay. All right. So those are the actionable tips she's recommending for you to kind of prevent. I think I would say mostly prevent, and maybe the vegetables maybe can help. But if you're already down that path and you're really in the Alzheimer's state, it may be really hard to kind of turn things around. So, oh well, thank you for all that information. That was a lot. So as a health coach, what would you recommend that someone caring for another person with Alzheimer's do so as not to get frustrated with the disease? Because you said it, you lose your memory, you lose your personality. There's a lot of mood imbalances. It's a lot to deal with. So bringing in one of your other hats, health coach, what would you say? How can we deal with this?
Yeah, before I switch hats, I also wanted to add just a couple more things about the accidents. So you absolutely don't have to be vegan. And in fact, I don't recommend being vegan for a sustainable amount of time. Periods of your life or your year are fine, but I actually think having good quality animal-based products and fats are great for your other antioxidants, such as CoQ10. So your coenzyme CoQ10 is also so essential for so many processes. And if you are on a statin for your cholesterol, first of all, it's getting depleted. And let's face it, many people that aged are on a statin. And this is found in fatty fish and animal products such as your organ meats, which nobody likes anymore in America, but are extremely, extremely beneficial and rich in B vitamins and so many other things. And whole grains also have some, but this is a fat soluble vitamin. So you got to get your good quality fats, and, fats are not evil. So they just have to be good quality, and if you have questions about that, I'm happy to talk. But basically, you need all of your nutrients to function. Your body needs all of it. They just need to be good quality. And I have to mention some herbs because I'm an herbalist. So I will say anything that stimulates circulation, both in your mind and your body, is good.
Okay.
And anything that is a source of antioxidants. So any berry, if you think of berries in general, are amazing sources and usually have different bright colors and low in sugar and high in fiber. So from the herbal perspective, I love hawthorn as a berry and also as its leaf and flower form. So the berry is an amazing antioxidant, multifactorial, great for your cardiovascular tone and system. And that tone and system also translates to your brain. The leaf and the flowers are great for those microvasculature systems and circulation. Other herbs that are great for circulation. So you probably know it, rosemary, right? We can cook with it. We have the essential oil, or just having the herb as a tea is really nice. And it's known to have stimulatory effects in the brain and increasing circulation. And then I'll just name two more. So they're both known as Brahmi in Ayurveda. One is called Bacopa and one is called Gotu Kola. And both of these are also supreme, and they have tons of evidence and studies and literature too that studied its effects for Alzheimer's in particular. So I'll just leave you with that. And then as far as being a coach, I would say...
Well, before you go to that, where can people get those herbs from?
So I have a virtual dispensary if you want to check that out. And you could also support me with every purchase. I have a curated list of supplements for a variety of different, systemic support issues. And then I would say if you have a local health food store or an herb store, that's a great place. I would like to move away from people always like jumping to online shopping, and like huge wholesalers, unless they're doing a good job, and try to select ones that are more local to you just to make it more sustainable with shipping. So if you're local to the Northeast, I'm happy to provide some good ones. But big companies, I like Frontier, which is actually closer to the West Coast. And then I also like Mountain Rose Herbals. And these are like
Frontier.
Ones. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. So she said you can get them. She has a herbal dispensary online, and good brands are Frontier and Mountain Rose. All right. So my question, do you remember it?
Yes, I remember it. So as a health coach, or just anybody that is working to support the whole family with a person who has Alzheimer's, right? So we want to understand that person's unique needs. And I really suggest working with the whole interdisciplinary team. So getting the doctor, the nurse on board, social worker, understanding what would be the best way to support this person and make the changes at home, whether it could be making the person more comfortable so they are familiar, with where they're living and it doesn't stress them out, asking them, what makes them comfortable is always a good place to start if they're able to, of course, communicate that to you. And making sure, they have access to something that they enjoy, that brings them joy and pleasure. You can also hang up like a large calendar and a wall clock just for orientation purposes, so a person can orient themselves in time. And really, I love encouraging going out in nature. And that really resets our parasympathetic system and gets us into a more relaxed system. And I believe healing can happen from a place of relaxation, safety, and stability. So never underestimate just going outside, seeing the greenery, doing the forest bathing, getting the sunlight, which also has vitamin D. So, and we haven't talked about vitamin D, but that is also a great anti-inflammatory agent. Very supportive, and most people are deficient.
Yes.
So all of those. And then if you, just cannot dedicate the time and energy needed to support this person, consider hiring somebody, that will help meet this person's daily needs. And again, not only meet the need, but just try to actually, accommodate what this person cares about, and something that can stimulate them, whether you help them with the exercise part of things or engaging them mentally, and really try your best to do that, plus provide, the dietary changes that we talked about.
Okay, very good. Yeah, and I think there's also a huge part about support, right? If you're helping somebody else, but sometimes you may need help. Or not help, you may need a break, right? So finding who can be your respite, somebody you can say, okay, I'm going to take a break today. Can you help out with mom? Can you help out with aunt? Kind of thing. So I think that's also important for you, for the person's mental health, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
yeah.
Resourcing, whether it's
Yes.
family, friends, or somebody
Yes.
paid to do it, it's okay.
Yes. All righty. That was so great. I have learned so much from you today. You can see she's the chemistry teacher. I have to. I keep telling her I'm coming to take a herbal course, and she's motivated me more today to say I'm coming back, because I'm really huge in health and wellness, and especially the natural way of healing. And so just hearing her speak about it, you can see she's the teacher. She's a chemistry teacher that is breaking it down. So I had to tell her, please break it down. Break it down so the layman can understand. So what do you, so before we go today, what's one thing can you share to make sure that people take away from this conversation? We've talked about a lot, but the one thing that even if they don't take anything away, they should take that thing away, what would you say it is?
I would say you have the power to affect your own health and healthcare and healing. So the number one thing you need is the education. So if you know that there are choices that you can make differently, then you can start today. It's never too early to start. It's also never too late to start. So the best time to start is now. Now that you know better, then now you can do better. Yes. So if you would like to support and prevent, get treated early, first of all, you got to get diagnosed early and hopefully never even make it to the diagnosis. So go to your regular checkups at the first sign of anything that's out of the ordinary. You're starting to forget things, misplace things, you get disoriented, lose your memory, lose track of things. These are the first symptoms, but we don't want you to even get there. So just eat the rainbow, put some herbs and spices into your meals and move your body and exercise your mind daily.
Very good. Thank you so much. All righty, people. So this, our audience is usually healthcare professionals like me, but if people had questions for you, how can they get a hold of you after this?
Yes. So I am really on all the social media platforms of your choice. So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You could just type in my name, Marina Buksov, and you can also just reach me on my website and contact me and look at my dispensary that I mentioned by typing drmarinabuksov.com.
Okay. And so Marina Buskov, DRMARINABUSKOV.com, right?
BUKSOV.
Oh my gosh. I said it wrong. I wrote it wrong. Okay, so let's say that again. DRMARINABUKSOV.
Correct.
Alrighty.com. Alrighty, you got that. Okay. So thank you so much for your time. I really, really enjoyed the show, and keep saying it. I'm coming one day. I'm coming to learn more about all these herbs. It's just in due time. All right. Thank you so much. It was wonderful having you. Yeah. Wonderful having you on the show. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye. Guess what? I have a free gift for you. Go to wellnesssearch.com and take the quiz there to find out if you possibly have high blood sugar. Or you can schedule a free call with me where I can share one thing that you can take action on to start feeling your best. If you've enjoyed the show, then follow us and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Information presented here is for educational purposes only, and it is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease. Please do not apply any of the information presented here without first speaking with your primary care provider. With best wishes to see you thrive. Have an awesome week.